Okay, so we're pushing on really like this. You can probably hear the 3D printer's fired up. I'll explain that in a second. But so far, you can probably see we have a Y-wing spreading before our eyes. All right, so a lot of the work that's going on at the moment is all of this. And it's a little bit fragile. All right, so this is all this plumbing work we've come in. I think the colour's a little bit dark, but again, I don't know, I actually quite like it more in the silver than the dark metal colours. You might remember last time we did it in jet manifold exhaust, but obviously this is a bigger beast. So we're going through and we're putting all the plumbing and pipe work on, and we've come along, that'll fall off, those guys will come out, but we've put in all the pipe work under here. And to be honest with you, some of it's gone really well, some of it hasn't gone as well. So what I've done is I've been a little bit clever, a little bit sneaky. So most of the pipe work on here is me doing it with plastic coated stuff. The trouble is, like, there's a good example here, up here, to get the kink and bends exactly in the right place was really, really difficult. So actually I 3D printed these off. So these are the ones which came with the actual kit itself, and we 3D printed those one off. Another one I was finding it really, really difficult to do was these two end ones here. To get them as a clean bend, as everything falls off, oh god, even the nose is coming off, alright, it is incredibly difficult. So to get them as a nice hook shape and everything else, so anyway, I gave up with that, pretty sharpish, and thought, do you know what, we'll quit on that one whilst we're ahead. And I actually then printed off the 3D parts ones, we fitted those, they went in there fine. Pretty much the rest of it. So if you're looking at it as a bit of a mishmash down in here, you've probably got 75% of it is my stuff, and then other stuff you haven't. Some of the other bits which aren't mine as well, just point them out, are these bigger ones here, because on the other side they've got like a hook system that comes up. I hope you can see it in there. So you've got these here. There we go. You can see these bend up. Trying to get those bends was an absolute nightmare. So I ended up, and again, another tricky one is these that run down in here to the front and from the back. So again, I did those, 3D printed those ones off. All right. So as you can see, she's pretty much coming to life now. And at the moment, what we've got to do is, it's just a little bit, needs to just push in a little bit tighter just to get all these joined up. At the moment, it's a tight fit, but it is getting there, so it is coming along nicely. As you can probably hear in the background then, the reason the 3D printer's fired up again is because I've tried to bend some of these ones at the top here, and yeah, you know, to be honest, I'm literally, this is the last of the cord stuff I've got. Also, the thickness is slightly different for this one, and it's quite a tricky one because it's going to run around this area in here and going to come up and go round. Some of them, we've got these ones here which are absolutely fine. So we've got this one in here which is a 3D printed one, and again that's really, really nice. And again, it's a little bit of a complex angle just because of the way that this goes, because not only does it look like that, it's also at a funny angle as well, and I was just struggling a little bit. But other ones, as I say, we've done ourselves. So the ones down the back here, these are very straightforward. So we've just got these bars. All right, now the bar ones, we've got a little hole down in here and one just down in here. So you can then just come along and you can seat these in. And again, it's this thing, just a little bit too big at the moment. So we've just got some cutters. We're just going to nip that tiny bit off the end. There we go. So that'll fit in there now. And obviously we can glue that one into place. Then we've got another bar, which is just going to come in just down in here, which actually is a nice bit already. So that one's going to go in. This one then comes across here. And then it's going to come down into the bottom down in here. Alright, I think I've got it the wrong way around, or what are the wrong way around. But yeah, this one comes in here. This one's at a funny angle, this one, slightly different to the other side, and it's going to come down and it's going to fit in there. So what we've got is two more to come in. So I've got one that comes across from at the top here and it's going to come across here. We've got another one that comes at a funny angle and it goes in this one here, and that will complete those out of the way. All right, but the rest of it hopefully agrees, come together very, very nicely indeed, and it's starting to look like a proper Y-wing now. All right, it's one of those jobs taking about a day to go through and be bending it, but actually when you get in the bit of the mojo with it and you bend and go, it's actually pretty straightforward, and it is quite therapeutic to go through. Some of the things I've just struggled with though is with the thickness of the pipes, because obviously we've just got obviously the coated wire, and then obviously some of them we've got some of the actual tubed ones, so we've actually been putting it inside. But again, you know, trying to not get pinch marks and also some of the tool marks on the corners, it's not as quite straightforward as it sort of first would appear. here, but from this scale and at this point you can get away with it quite nicely. So that's going to take around about 20 minutes to print off some new pipes. So I've got 2 new pipes coming in for this one. We'll get that one done. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some glass work into this purely because I just think it needs it. So first of all, we're going to tidy up the black work in here. So we're going to hand paint in there with black. Then we're going to come along with some acetate, and we're going to put acetate right the way in these to actually fix these into position. All right, and again we'll use some PVA glue just to put those in. I think it'll just look nicer not having it just as a clear part. So when these are along and these do come in, it's got something a little bit more reflective into it. I think it'll make it look a little bit nicer. So yeah, it's all coming along. So at the moment it's all super glue, gluing all the pipe work onto this, getting them cut to the right length, getting them put in board, checking them for angles before you commit to glue. Once you're in there, you should be absolutely fine. So I'll get the last part of these pipes onto it. I'm just going to hand paint this black in here just to make sure it's all neat and tidy, and we'll come together for putting the clear windows or homemade windows into the actual canopy itself. Okay, so that is the pipe work finally all done. A lot of it, to be honest. And again, we used obviously a lot of that coated wire that worked quite well. We put the coated wire inside some other pipes, but some of them, as I spoke about before, I had to go round and actually 3D print some off, and they worked really, really well. And in fact, I had to go back yesterday and just print off 2 more little pipes because the ones I had were just not the right scale. I had too thin or too thick, and again, looking at them. So again, it was a nice balance between them all. And now when you look at it, I defy anybody, especially at that distance, to notice which is which down in here. So which one of these are the cord ones, and obviously which ones are the actual 3D printed ones. And then they've gone in well. And again, we spoke before, these ones down in here, these are all 3D printed at the back, purely because those bends are way too complex and too sharp for what I could do. Just general ones though, no problem at all. So that's looking really nice. And again, like I always say, every model tells a story, and our story for these particular ones is that this is technically not an old worn out one like we did before. So we've got obviously gold leader down in here. It's quite dirty on the top, and the pipes are really gone as well. These aren't. These are a little bit more cleaner. I might still pop around and do some changes of colour and have to just hand paint some dirt onto them and things like that. But for the moment, I quite like it with this style that we've got here. Of this piping on here. We have sprayed up the white ones at the back now, so we did that as well. So that is all looking good. And so with that done and out of the way, we can pretty much move on. So we can move on now to get it together. The front end, I've trimmed all of these back, and to be honest, I've taken a little bit of distance out of the neck just so these come together, hopefully, very nicely. So when we pop this on now, again, we can slide it in and then we run it all down in there. Now all the pipes join the actual back, and again underneath in here it goes really nicely down into this area. There's still a few little loose pipes down here. You probably see like we've got these moving around there because I need to glue those in. They're very close to this area, so I've left those as a loose fit. So if we're happy, what we can actually do now is glue the actual head onto the neck system down in here. And yeah, I just think it looks really cool, like it in the green. I must admit, I do like it. It looks very sort of snake-like as well with those markings like that. So again, looking very, very good. But we've still got to do some work down here on the head. I've now glued the pilot in place as well. So he's in there now, looking very nice. I do need to make a control grip for him. He looks a bit funny with his hand like that, so I'm going to scratch build something in there just to give him something to hold on to. But what we need to do is turn our attention to the actual canopy. Now the canopy itself looks great, and of course we could just leave it, but it is at a bigger scale, and obviously it's very noticeable that we don't have any glass work down in here. All right, so what I've been doing is, I'll bring some over here, I've come in with this little lot. All right, so this canopy here has no framing, no nothing in this whatsoever. So actually what I did was I came along, we used a little bit of this, all right, and then we curved it on the inside into here like this, and then we drew around here. In fact, I'll show you what I did. Grab it. Okay. So we just got a Sharpie literally like this, and I came along and we literally just did this. All right, that's typical. Sharpie to work. Come on, Sharpie. I know I had the lid off last night. There we go. So if we just do that again. So literally, because it is on a bend, so we just put it in here like this, came along just like this, and then we came in here, pressing it nice and forward all the time. All right, and we've got it just like this. The big thing you can notice, it's not straight. There's a curve on the underside and there's a curve at the top. There's a slight curve to this. So as you can probably see down in here, we have a slight curve on this as well. The underside one isn't so bad because I cut it, had to trim it a little bit short so it doesn't interfere. But now when we come along and we place this up in here, in the right area, in fact I've got to make sure which side on this. Again, I think this is it. This is the one on this side. All right, so it fits in there just like that, and that will give us our windows looking just there. The big thing to do is obviously on this edge here at the bottom, we need to trim it up because just down in here, we've only got a very small slice gap. We're okay with here and this part, to be honest, because it's going to be on the inside, but we don't want it to interfere too much. But down at the front, we can't have too much of a gap, if you like, because there'll be no room for them actually to fit. So that's how we did those. So we got those in place, and I think, as you can see with the blue on there, looks great. If I switch it out for the clear part, so this is the clear one once it's in, that's actually in there. Actually get some light on it. There you go. See some reflections onto it. I think it will look perfect. But fixing this in, again, isn't straightforward because we're okay from the back part here and this center one if you wanted to, but you can notice how it springs. This is a little bit springy, so we need to glue it firmly down into place at those two locations and right the way around the edge, not the top, because there is nothing on the top. But actually you can't see where it stops and ends anyway. I think it's going to be absolutely fine. The problem you've got here, really, to be honest, where it comes in is the front, because you need enough meat to obviously have a little bit of this clear part on here, and you still need enough meat for these to go in, and these ones here are for these corner windows which are going to fit in just like that. And then again, we've had to make a little template and cut out just little legs so this can come in as well for the front windscreen. So once it's all in here, I think it all looks absolutely fine. It's just getting it all in to marry around and not to interfere too much with each other, because there's not a lot of room for the clear parts to go round. But I think once we get it all in here, we'll be absolutely fine. So for this, what we've done is we've got down in here a sheet of this. So this is literally just like a very thin acetate. You can see it here. It's by Bayer or Bayer. All right, and it's literally just double-sided like this. And then if I peel the other side, you can see. And it's very, very thin. Thinness of this, I think it's around about 1/4 mil thick, so it is quite thin. And this is what we use for vac forming as well. It's great for vac forming, for plunge moulding and things like that. So it's clear, so really, really nice. So although this isn't actually a totally flat surface to put this onto, it's pretty much, I think we can get in there. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with, to be honest, the more straightforward parts. So we'll get the bottom ones in, the actual front windscreen, and then we'll get the side ones in. So we're going to glue those in place. To be honest, it's a long old job because you've got to wait for the glue to dry. And also, what glue are you going to use? Now, obviously you could use a PVA glue, which would work really, really well. Trouble with PVA glue is that it's very soft and takes a long time to go off. So this will have to be clamped in place and held and make sure it's fine and left for hours for it to go off before you can undo it. You could use something like a clear Gorilla Glue. Trouble with that is though it's very, very thick, very grippy. But to be honest with you, it can have real problems because it gets almost like aerated as it dries with the chemical reaction, and you get bubbles into it. If you get any on your clear parts, it's going to be a nightmare, so you can actually see it. Third option, of course, is things like a tiny little bit of super glue. Instant grab, that's the drawback to it, because it's instant grab. What you can actually do is actually put it into place and then not be able to move it. And again, if you're using with small, tiny amounts, it's instant grab. Big amounts, it's not so bad, you can maneuver it around. But also, if you get it wrong, you're going to make a complete mess. So I prefer to use a PVA glue, something that could be wipe up clean. And if it does go wrong, peel it off and go again. We've got lots of it here. We can make up replacement parts if we needed to, right the way through here. All right. I did think about putting in like a framing system like you do with windows, that small plastic card, and then it would all shim down and slide into it almost. But to be honest, the amount of work for doing all of that, it'd be quick and easy to put these in. Like I was explaining to Matt earlier when I was talking about this, and this isn't a open top like this. All right, so this isn't going to be one of these where it sits here open. One is I'm going to have it in flight, so it's going to be closed up. Also, this is a side opener, so think of Starfighter or something else like that. So this center section of the canopy opens off to one side. So again, it's not one of those ones where you're going to see too much going on. And once it's on and locked in like this, it's beautiful. But I think just because of the scale, small scale, 70-second, you know, things like this, you can sort of get away with it in 144. But the thing is, as soon as you move up to these bigger scales, not having clear glass in there, yeah, you're thinking, well, what's going on? It just looks like there's nothing into it. So I'm thinking by putting this in, a little bit of effort here, it should work well. So I'm going to get a couple of pieces installed onto this, let those dry. We can show you how getting on, and then I'll show you how to fit the others. Okay, so we've got some of these put in place, as you can see. So we've got these on here, down on that side, looking a little bit wet at the moment, but hopefully you can see now. That's our glass work. Here are the reflections coming off of them all. And it's still nice and clear. Put that front one in there as well. And that is all glued in place just like that. So I'll show you on these ones now. We've got some of those in. So to start with, we need a set of clear parts. All right, give these a bit of a wipe first. So making sure we get them the right way up, because there is an up and down to these. There we go, that's the way we want it. So we want it that way. What we're going to do is we're just going to take a little bit of PVA glue. So I have gone down the PVA glue route purely because it was the less messy of all the evils. All right, so we just put a little bit just down in here, a little bit on there, a little bit around in here. And I'm not smearing it all over this. We're just putting on a small little coat, because we'll clean it all up afterwards anyway. But we just want a little bit of glue, and if we've got too much like there, we will then just brush it around a little bit. Get it going. All right, and then to be honest, we've got just a little bit too much here, so I'm just going to spread this just out a little bit. Then we take our clear part. All right, so then we're going to stick it in, then fold it over so we don't drag it round. So it's in, and then we're just going to come across, and then we've got these little guys, little clips, which will hold it nicely into place and secure it for us exactly where we want it. All right, so that is in there looking good. We check it from the outside, that's looking very nice. So now what we need to do is just put a little seal down in here of it. So what we've got is a little bit of water. So just have a couple of drops of water. This is just tap water, nothing fancy. Then we take some glue. All right, we'll mix these up into a watery paste. All right, probably just need a little bit more, but not much. So I'm just going to grab a little bit on the brush. There we go. So we want it to look like, you know, single cream, if you like. Making sure you haven't got any all over your fingers, which I probably will have, but hey ho. All right, then what we're going to do is just going to come along, and we're going to start in the middle, and we're just going to put a little bead, just like that. Then we're going to drag. So just take a little bead, and we're going to drag. And then this will, hopefully, come through. Just going to grab a little bit more of the thicker stuff from the back part, because at the back here there's a small step, and I want to cover that step. And then again, just drag this all the way down, making a nice little seal, like a gasket. Probably need a little bit more here. So get a little bit of glue, water into it, all mix, a bit more glue. So again, sort of single cream. It's enough then to, what happens is, it's enough to hold capillary action wise and make its way around, but it's not enough to suddenly start gluing bits everywhere else and getting lost and stuck. So we're just putting in a gasket right the way across, then right the way down. All right, and what you can do is, if you wanted to, you just put a little bit of gasket around the outside of this as well. So you can just brush it onto it and then hold it into position just like that. And then what we'll do, we'll let that dry off for around about half an hour until it vanishes, and then it will look just like that one. And that's down in there just like that. All right, And then again, same exactly with the small little triangle bit. This guy will then sit in, but I'll wait till the front end is dry. Let me just remove the tape off of this. So the protective layer. So when this comes in, this one, all we do is drop it into place and we leave it. So again, we'll just take that one to there a minute. So this guy, when we come in, we pop this one in, all that happens is we just come in and we'll literally leave it exactly where it is. So that just comes in like that and it stays there. Then we can come along, and in theory we could do it now and just run a little bit of glue capillary action like we did on the outside. But what I like to do is it just needs a small bend on it, just a little bit of grip, just to put it to the edge, and then just to glue that one in. That one actually is not looking too bad, and that is it. All right, so with them both in, you can see it's holding its own there now because it's got a little bit of wet glue with it. But that is, and you could probably glue that in there now, and in fact I probably am. So we're just going to grab a little bit more glue, a little bit more water, just into our little mix here, and I think that triangle piece will hold its own. So again, we're just going to come along, a tiny little bit in the corner, and we're just going to run a bead right the way up, and it will dry crystal clear, but this is enough now to glue these two bits together. And then again, we can just do a little bit on the edge here. Again, it does need a little bit of a bite, which I will give it. So hopefully we can just get away with putting one of these just here. It's not too much. There we go, that should be fine. Alright, just in there like that, just to hold that in whilst all of that dries. As I say, it's quite thin, it won't take too long at all. And we should end up with it nice and clear on the inside. So what we'll do is we'll leave that off, just let it dry, and say give it half an hour. We'll come back, we'll have a look, make sure we're happy. Actually looks pretty good. So what we'll do, as I say, we'll come back once it's dry. If it's dry, then we can fit it onto here. We can then get this fitted onto the front end. Then we can just do our final weathering, which is going to be some chipping work, some little blaster work, things like that right at the way over it. Get a little bit creative and artistic. Then we can mount it up onto its stand, of which I did have it here a minute ago. I've got an acrylic stand, here we are. So we've actually got this, so I've tapered this off, as you can see at one end, just so this fits perfectly, and it's a deep socket into here, and it will come in. We can cut this to the length we want, and then we're going to bend it, so it's obviously moving. So we're going to be adding a little bit of heat just down to here. But to be honest with you, I thought I had a nice bit of wood lined up for this, which I was going to stain and varnish, but yeah, no, it's not. So I'm going to have to get a new plinth for it. Probably going to use an old, and it's a good little tip for this thing, old shelves. You know, mahogany shelves, things like that. Chop them up then, good to go. Cheap way of doing it. All right, so anyway, we've got that. We'll get that one sorted, but for the moment we need that to dry first. Then we can fix the cockpit and get it locked into place. We have got to make a few little adjustments because obviously the width there of the clear part will affect the width on this. So we just need to shave a little bit back just to make sure it's a nice, good, secure locking fit of that one going down onto it. All right, get that in there. Then we can have some fun with the final weathering. Okay, so we're getting on really, really well here. It's coming together very nicely. The canopy has turned out better than I would have thought. So I know it's so clear you can hardly see apart from bits of fleck on it, which is on one side or the other. But you can see, there you go. You've got the reflections in there now. We've got the fronts. We've got those corner glasses. And these all down in here. Obviously, there's one that goes on the rear and there. So there we go. That's done. Looks very nice. Inside, yeah, it's actually not bad. To be honest, that's pretty darn clean. Much work for me. All right, so it is down in there. It has caused a few little fit issues, I'm not going to lie, because when I first went to put this on, obviously it wouldn't fit at all. So what I've had to do is just shave in a little bit at the edges, just at the back here, because obviously this framework's quite big. Of course I could take some of this out, but we didn't want that to happen. So when this is in, we've got it in there. We've got that rear window in there as well there now. So that fits in there all very nicely. But the biggest problem we have, because of the difference in the glass thickness here, I couldn't get it to slip down in here. So to be honest, in with Mr. Little Pen, and I'll show you exactly what I did. We just came in and I grinded out just a little smidge along each section for it to go in. So it just gives it a little bit more wiggle room now. And now it fits in there perfectly. All right, so very, very happy with that. I might take another smidge out just to get that canopy, but actually you can see it fits in there very, very nicely now. all the way round. No problem at all. We can see our figure in there and he's good for everything what we need. All right, so that's actually looking pretty darn smart. Same time as that, we've done the gun. So we'd already painted it white, and all we've done, we've used a little bit of gunmetal just on these front parts, and then just a little bit of dry brushing. All right, and then that literally just pushes in at the top, making sure he's at the nice angle. And there we go. There's our turret installed on there. Looking very, very nice indeed. So with that done, we can actually get it together properly for the first time. So literally what we're going to do is we'll come with a little bit of super glue and put this in, but the pipe works all fit nicely into this now, and it technically is pretty much there. So what we will do is, for the final time, I was going to leave it as a loose fit, but I'm more worried about it falling off at some point. We're not going to go with a ton of glue here because we're not going to need it, so we're just going to go a little dot on the top. All right, and then a little dot on the bottom. And again, it will then slide in. And then, take the canopy off, just keep it safe. We can then just work this in. There we go. And again, we just got to get those pipes all in there nice and fashioned in. Bit of a nudge. And there we have it in there. Both sides done. Really very nicely indeed. All right, so this canopy, I'm not sure if we're actually going to fix it into position. I might, now I know it's clear and there's not any dust in there and things like that, I might just tack it into place with a little bit of PVA glue just to hold it in place. But generally I think it's pretty nice in there. So I'm not too worried about it at all. So what we're going to do is these pipes, I'm just going to make sure they're all in and touching. Touch of super glue just with each one of those, just to hold it in place. Some of them, to be honest, aren't going to need it. Some definitely are. All right. So we'll get those in place. With that done, we're pretty much there. All we're going to do then is going to come along with some chipping work. So again, that'll be nice things we can do afterwards. Chipping and sci-fi I always do last, basically, and stuff like that. I have ordered a plinth. I had a bit of a thing yesterday about doing that tile base and that. If you've seen any of the live shows, you know I was talking about it. I'm actually want to keep this classy, shall we say. So I've ordered online, it's £22, is a gorgeous plinth for this, and it's about so big, just a little bit smaller than what this is, and it's in black and it looks absolutely fantastic. And I'm thinking I'll just drill a hole. I don't even know what size this is. I think this is 10mm. It is 10mm. So we just drill a 10mm hole into this, and then this will come in. What we need to do is work out the heights of exactly how this is going to be, and then we need to put the twist in at the top. So we're going to do the twist very close to it. But as I said, I've got the hot air gun here. I'll show you all about that. But I want the plinth to be here because I need to know how tall to do it, and then obviously with the height, about how much twist it's in it, if that makes sense. So we are going to hold off. That's due for delivery tomorrow. So I'm hopeful by sort of the actual Friday show, as you'll see it, will be pretty much done by then. Anyway, I'm just going to let that head dry onto the neck down in there, and then what we're going to do, we're going to come along with a little bit of freehand chipping, have a little bit of fun with it, and then some little bits of weathering, post shading, things like that, right the way over this, just to bring it all to life.